Oh, welcome back to the National Briefing. With me, Kelly Nash. I hope you got to recharge your batteries over the weekend. I am always recommending that on the weekends you unplug from social media, you unplug from the news cycles, you spend time with friends, family, decompress. We'll be here first thing Monday morning to let you know the big stories of the weekend, and we'll start with a horrific story just outside of Flint, Michigan.
2 people are dead, several more hurt after a gunman opened fire at a church this morning.
A 40-year-old suspect. He drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church.
Now, that individual later identified as 40-year-old Thomas Sanford, and the left has gone very gleeful this morning. We'll get into that in just a moment. When I first heard the news, I'm guessing it was around noon yesterday that I heard this story. I retweeted a video of the fire that was happening at the church because the sick individual here who attacked the church and tried to kill everybody in it, part of his plan was that his truck was loaded with, apparently, according to the authorities on scene, devices that then set the church ablaze. So I retweeted the video of the church on fire with the news that they had put, breaking, mass shooting happening at Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The shooter has gone on a deadly rampage, killing and injuring multiple worshipers while setting the whole building ablaze. My only comment on it, I'm a traditionalist, thoughts and prayers. And then I also added 1 John 5:19, the whole world is under the control of the evil one. That is an evil act that should be condemned by every person on the planet. But it's not. It's actually being celebrated by some on the left. Why would they celebrate this? Because it appears that Mr. Thomas Sanford was MAGA. We have a MAGA murderer, MAGA insane rampage yesterday, and they're celebrating that because now, as they would say, the chickens have come home to roost. Interesting that they're basing that off of nothing other than his appearance. For how many times have you been lectured to that you cannot judge anyone by their appearance? In other words, just because someone is, well, take it back to the original, the hoodie. If you see a young black male wearing a hooded sweatshirt and the hood is up and he's wherever, in a store, late at night, or any time of the day, you're not allowed as the store owner to suspect him of doing anything illegal. He's not shoplifting. You can't suspect him of that, as opposed to a young lady who shows up in, her yoga gear, fresh from her Orange Theory workout. They must be treated equally. You can't judge anybody by their appearance. You cannot judge the fact that somebody goes on a murderous rampage in London while yelling Allah Akbar and wearing Muslim gear. You cannot assume that that's a Muslim. But you can if he has a beard and drives a pickup truck. And I will note the pickup truck had 2 American flags flying off of it as he drove through the front door of the church, set it on fire, got out, and started shooting at everybody in sight, including an 8-year-old, I think it was an 8-year-old girl who was trying to run away from him. I don't believe she's dead. I think she's seriously injured. But now you're just jumping to the conclusion that's MAGA. We have not heard anything from the authorities that say anything about a manifesto. We haven't really gotten a good look at any social media. I don't think he was very active on social media because the only thing I had ever seen so far, as 5 o'clock this morning, is that he did have a child with some sort of syndrome when they were born, and they had a GoFundMe account set up like 10 years ago, and they raised $3,000 to help the kid. And the mom and dad he had posted something about don't ever take for granted having a healthy child, something to that extent. Iraqi war veteran, former Marine. Does that have the telltale signs of a MAGA member? Sure. Military member, white guy, got American flags, driving a pickup truck. You're just going to jump to the conclusion he's MAGA. I'm just pointing out the irony that you're saying you can't judge anybody else from their appearance, but you can judge this guy. But I will give you that. I will assume that the man in charge, or the man who went on the rampage, Thomas Sanford, is in fact a former MAGA member. I would ask you then to follow it up with what rhetoric from anybody within the MAGA movement, including the president himself, or any high-profile commentators, has led Mr. Sanford to this sad state. In other words, on the left, when you talk about political violence on the left, I can trace your rhetoric back to why not everyone, not even the majority on the left, but people could hear your rhetoric and interpret it as a call to arms. In other words, you've got people on the left that says if you believe that we should have to show ID to vote, that you are targeting African Americans. You are trying to disenfranchise them from the American process, and that needs to be stopped. These people are attacking black people by asking for identification. Stop them. That's your words, not ours. I can show you that if you say that someone who is born male but identifies as a female should not be allowed to compete in women's sports, that you are a transphobic and a horrible person who will not allow Americans the opportunity to pursue happiness. We're shutting them off from the actual American dream, not even the American dream, the promise of pursuing happiness. We should be stopped for that. I mean, it's a long litany of things that you call out the right on and say they should be stopped from doing this. What happened on the right where we said something about attack Mormons? How could any of the things that Donald Trump has ever said be misconstrued to say the Mormon church is a threat to America? I don't think you're going to find that. So then the most likely answer is that Thomas Sanford had some sort of mental breakdown. That Thomas Sanford was not responding to right-wing rhetoric. He was responding to demons in his head. And I'm not saying that those on the left who do violence are not also responding to demons in their head. What I'm saying is that those seeds are easily planted when you identify people on the right as fascists or call them Hitler. It's a much easier jump to say, would I go back in time and kill a 5-year-old Hitler because I knew what he was about to become? Would I kill Donald Trump before he does more harm to the gay, lesbian, trans youths of America? Because we know that they're going to kill themselves if Donald Trump is allowed to pursue these dreams of stopping transgendered kids from living the fullness of their lives and competing in sports. Your rhetoric on the left is the dangerous rhetoric. What happened yesterday in Michigan, again, just based off of what we've seen, you've jumped to the conclusion that he's MAGA. I'm not going to argue that he's not. I'm basing that off of what you're basing it off of. His physical appearance and the fact that he drives a pickup truck and like the American flag. Ironic that people on the left see the American flag and also think that that's a MAGA far-right extremist move. Your flags are a lot different than our flags, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to say this was the work of a lunatic under some sort of demonic spell, and I have not yet hear you push back and say anything about it's Donald Trump or any right-wing conservative commentators. You're not going to be able to blame this on Charlie Kirk. You're not going to be able to blame this on, what's the guy's name on CNN? You can't blame it on any of them. It's the man, the killer himself did this. And that's the bottom line.